Order up.
Welcome to OverProof. This week on the show, we have Timo Janse. He is the founder of Dutch Courage Cocktail Bar, owner and organizer of the Perfect Serve Bar Show, owner and organizer of Amsterdam Cocktail Week, owner and creator of Revolution Cherry Cocktail Cherries, and he also hosts talks, consults, and then sits on the board of the NBC. Just a few things in there on the lineup. Welcome.
Thank you. I mean, by and by, it's mostly just owning the bar. The rest is all seasonal stuff.
Yeah, okay, cool. So it does sound like you wear a lot of hats currently. Have you always been like this?
No, I come from a bartender / bar manager, quickly bar manager background. And as I was starting to build up of opening my own bar, our bar show got kind of like bought out or like was kind of like, dissolved pretty much. And that annoyed me because I felt it was really important for a country to have a bar show in general. I find that very important. And then nobody was picking it up. Nobody was doing it. And then I kind of said like, okay, if nobody's doing it, then I guess I'm doing it. So I took the savings that I had to open my own bar. And then I just, created a bar show with that money. And I think that kind of guided me ever since. More of like, like if you feel that something is missing, then stop, complaining about it and create it yourself. If you feel that, hey, like this is very, important or missing, or hey, like why isn't nobody doing this? And then maybe do it yourself and then find out why nobody's doing it. But there's a part to that as well.
This is life advice. And how long ago was this?
That was about almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
So quite some time ago. Yeah. So now we are going into the what is it, like the 12th edition of the convention as such. And,
wow.
Which was funny because when I started, certain brands or some people were supportive, but others were kind of like, it's not possible for somebody to just start a bar show. You need experience in organizing stuff, and. I just had the feeling that, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to see in a bar show and what I didn't really like about bar shows at the time. And so, I was like, let's see, let's see. And then in the beginning, it was met with quite some, like I said, some positivity, some negativity. But after a few years, that all kind of silenced. And then it was like, and for me, it was a really proud moment, actually, the first time I heard somebody talking about Perfect Serve, and I didn't know them in person, which is really weird. So somebody said to me, oh, yeah, there's this thing called Perfect Serve. It was like, continue. What are you going to say now? Oh, yeah, how did you enjoy that? And I thought that was a really proud moment, that I was feeling like that it kind of like transgressed beyond me as a person and my friends and people of the industry to a kind of like younger generation who is going to the event without without realizing who is behind it or doing it. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. And when you first started it, was it just you doing all of the organizing?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, pretty much. I guess so. Yeah.
Has it changed? Has it over time?
It got a lot easier. A lot of times you with things like that, because you don't really know how it's supposed to be. In the beginning, you make some mistakes, or you don't have certain standards in order. And the more kind of experience you have, the more standards you have in order, the more you kind of know what you yourself enjoy seeing and doing, and the things you really want to stay away from. And I think so. By that, it's gotten a lot easier, I would say. Yeah, for sure, and more enjoyable. At the same time, we've gone through all of like COVID and everything around it. In general, it's become a lot harder to get brands on board from that perspective.
Right.
Because people are much tighter on spending money and what they see and what like to see in return. But I always kind of hedged my risks in that way. I was never one to really, I realized luckily very quickly that I didn't want to be dependent on any big player in the market and say like, okay, if so-and-so, or if this company doesn't participate, like I can't do the show. Or luckily when I was first asked like, hey, I remember one brand saying like, okay, we want to join your show, but then we want to be the only vodka on the entire show. And I remember going like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm just happy I said no to that concept. You just don't, I think in general, you just never want to be too dependent on one, don't put your eggs in one basket,
It's very good business and life advice, I think.
Yeah. I think that's good, because you will just see if you just keep hedging your bets towards like this one thing that's kind of like your cash cow or something, you will just see that it will fall through at some point, and if you don't have any backup, if there's side plan, then you just run a big risk. Doesn't mean that it has to happen, but it's just life can get a bit scary in that way.
Totally. When you first started talking about the bar show, you said jokingly that you would soon see why other people didn't want to do it anymore.
Yes. I think if you look at bar shows, if you look at that kind of event, it is just very hard to make any money at all. Luckily, I it was not the reason I did it at all. So I didn't get into it to, have a salary or pay my rent or anything. I already had a job, so for me, it was just important to do it and get in a room with cool, ideas and be inspired myself. But I kind of felt that, I didn't want to lose any money. It was just kind of like more like a pride thing. Like, hey, I don't want it to fail. This is also my savings, right? So I didn't have any investors. So I was a little bit like, hey, I don't want to lose money. That, that side is I can imagine hard. And if you look at a bar show, in general, around the world, usually people are in it for alternative, reasons or like funnels with it. For me, that was just mostly just to get the scene bigger and better in the Netherlands or more on the global map. But in other countries, you'll see that, maybe it's like a cocktail catering company, or if it's like, or a non-profit at all, where it's just somebody, trying to get like a salary or like more from a non-profit angle. I think the people that did it, like, hey, I'm just going to do this in order to make money. I've not seen that survive a lot of times. It's just a bit too complex. And I think it's also another side is that you're dealing with, well, you probably know this, but you're dealing with a big variation in, how much you can trust these companies, like when you start off, but when you begin, when you start off, you're kind of like, you're viewing it like, okay, so you have these bars, can they be trusted? I mean, it's usually small businesses, so you're kind of like, okay, it's kind of like, muddy ground. So, but probably brands are much more like, it's a company, right? So it's much more responsible, but in my experience, it's actually often the other way around. I much rather deal with bars like I do at Amsterdam Cocktail Week, because they're people, right? So you can go there physically and address them and say like, hey, how's it going? And also it feels less bad when they don't pay you, because usually then why that's happening, because they're struggling or like there's an issue or or they're really unhappy, like actually unhappy. Whereas with sometimes with businesses, they just kind of cheat and then they kind of do it again and again and again and again, and you can just see that it's kind of like, it's almost like a business model for them to kind of not pay bills. And like you just have to learn to hedge your risks there. So I recently had a very nice conversation with one of my suppliers, and he was just like, because I had an outstanding invoice and they kind of weren't able to pay it for like an additional few weeks or something. But he was really like, oh no, I feel really bad about it. It was like, just the fact that you're feeling about this is already tells me that, you have every intent of paying me, you're communicating, with things like that. It's important to explain, not go silent, not, go into shame and just like, it's like, I've witnessed way worse in this line of a thing. And, and I already knew like, this is going to be fine. This is going to work out just fine, and so that turned out just great. And then you have a relationship, right? So when you're dealing with a relationship, when you've been dealing for a long time and you tell the other person like, hey, business hasn't been great. Is it okay if I, delay payment for
Most people would be understanding in that situation.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially if you know a timeline to it, like, oh yeah, okay,
Totally.
sure. Oh yeah, another month. Okay, sure, yeah. I'm fine. Like as long as I know it's coming, it's sure. Like all good.
Yeah. Do you know what's the worst is when they don't pay you, but they're still going to every other bar show around the world.
Yeah, it's really awkward, and you're angry, right? So because I would be like, and I was like, I'm angry, like I'm gonna actually say something, and I was like, I know, like I know that's kind of bad, but I want to say something. I'm not, like, and sometimes you really go like have to go fight against the fact that you're like, I'm thinking of me like they can't keep getting away with this.
Yeah.
They can't keep getting away with this. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes people, sometimes the bad guys win. So some people do actually get away with a lot. Like, but luckily there's the other side of things, and I think most people want to do good.
I would agree. Yeah.
But it is a high risk. It is a high risk, I would say, environment.
I think a lot of people would see something like the scale of, let's say, BCB and think like, this is a great business model. I'm going to make so much money. And then you do it yourself, and it's probably not the same.
No. It's a lot of waiting. You just kind of weed the other ones. And I think it's also when you're just starting out, you don't have a track record, right? So it's like people additionally think like, okay, like worst case, like they dissolve and, like what does it matter? But it's only when like when you've been working together for a longer time, now, this is one of the benefits. You've been working together for a longer time. So it's a bigger loss for them they know they're going to run into you again. In the future, and then in which case they do have to actually pay up. You get away with it once, I guess, and then here's the piper, so you have to pay the piper. So
yeah, for sure. And so was this technically your first business?
Yep, totally, yep. So I was doing it while I was just still managing the bar, which was Door 74 at the time, so speakeasy bar. So I managed that in the end. I managed that for almost 10 years before opening my own bar, and just did a lot of that. So when you look at my, let's say, like bartending track record, it's actually very short resume. Just worked for very long time at every place unless I had a very good reason to leave. So
interesting. There's not too many people that would have quite a short resume.
I've always been, the kind of person that, like I said, if you feel that something needs to change, just try to influence it and not go somewhere else. Grass is always greener kind of thing. And I think when I started doing guest shifts, I actually felt that even stronger. A lot of times you see...
Interesting.
A lot of times when you see the images, like it's more like, oh, so glamorous. Oh, it must be great working in ... And then you do a guest shift there, you're like, it's still dirty under the bar. Or it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same crap, a different setting.
Totally.
Or worse crap in some cases. A lot worse crap. But and I think the beauty of it for me from the side of guest bartending was that, I was never a big traveler. I'm not like a globetrotter, that side, never really inspired me. But what I noticed and what I really loved is that I think bartenders as a community or as people are the same everywhere, and they're just a really lovely bunch to be around. So that's always what attracted me. The setting, if you're in a room where it's just bartenders, it's just always a great crowd. It's people that like to take care of each other and are very helpful and friendly. And, it's the job, right? So it's just a great room full of people. If you can have a room like that, it's a great room. Same with like when I was managing Door 74, it was kind of a bartender's bar as well after closing, because we didn't really close ever. Shut-ins every night pretty much. So it would just be like, okay, well, and so it became kind of like a bartender's hang, after hours. So a lot of times it was a room like that, just people in the industry just talking, and maybe also people not from the cocktail industry, but like I don't know, general like bars or bouncers or just general hospitality industry people.
Yeah.
And it's a nice, like I said, it's a nice crowd. People tended to say, like, when we opened Flying Dutchman later on, when we were opened until when they offered us the place, and they said, oh, well, technically the license is until 4 a.m., but, you're a cocktail bar. You probably want to close at, 1 a.m., right? And I was like, no, the latest we can, the latest. I love, business at late hours, late hours, night owls kind of setting. You can decide a lot. People tend to think that attracts really crazy people, but it's not. In my experience, it's not really like that at all. I think you can set the mood a lot with your offering, with service, with lighting, with music. So you can definitely kind of set the mood or what it is or what you're kind of looking for. People that club people, you tend to stay in their lane.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And how did you decide that you wanted to open up your own space?
Always, yes. Yeah,
always the plan.
Very, very early on. So as soon as I kind of set foot behind the bar, well, first of all, so I'm from origin, I'm a student of economics, so I was doing just the side jobs. Always loved physical work because when I started working in our local supermarket was my first job, and I really enjoyed that. The supermarket couldn't keep me away almost. Like I would show up 3 hours early, just wanting to stock shelves, and they were like, hey, are you on shift? I was like, no, I just like to, work. And I just really enjoyed the kind of camaraderie there, of the people working there and different age groups and, just learning the workings of a supermarket, I guess. And then, I remember telling my mom, saying hey, I really like this kind of work much more than, studying or doing for tests. And I much more enjoy being tired at the end of the day from physical labor than just being mentally tired. It just gave me headaches. And then she said she was like, yeah, then you're just going to be poor and live on the streets, because she, my family comes from a whole nest of, more professors and more very university, teaching kind of thing. So I was the first of my family to even consider working in hospitality for a full-time job. So in the beginning, was also kind of reluctant. So I started working during college, studying economics, and then completely, utterly fell in love. Really feeling the cosmos speaking to me. This is what I'm supposed to do, and that was just in a dive bar kind of setting for the weekends.
Fun.
And. Had a lot of fun doing that, and started creating. I especially enjoyed creating shots, or being creative on that. They didn't do any cocktails for that matter. They also didn't have much ingredient of anything, but they did let me mix shots for people, usually with stuff that was out of date or juice that were out of date. It was very one of a kind of typical place. But I really enjoyed making all of those things, and then kind of rolled into saying okay, so if I were to tell my parents that I am no longer interested in advancing on my studies, I'd better make sure that I'm very good at this new career. So I kind of kept it away from them until I actually managed and got to work in a 5-star hotel in the bar there. And that took me about a year. And then I was managing it, and then I felt kind of okay to tell them hey, the studying thing is actually not happening anymore. So yeah.
Wait, so I get this timeline right. You were in the diviest of dive bars. You went to a 5-star hotel, and then you were managing all within a year?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, pretty much. I did a lot of temp jobs. Like I said, I got kind of bored with my studies. I was doing okay. I got good enough passing grades kind of thing. And then I just wanted to go out a lot, and that meant I had to work a lot, and working a lot, and kind of juggling. I was working at. I say temp jobs, and one of the places was a newly opened boutique hotel bar with a pretty serious interior. And it was I remember coming in there for the first shift, and I'm a temp, right? So I'm the lowest of the lowest. But by that time I was more okay, I was the bar specialist, kind of. And because I had some bar experience, and my other job was in a dive bar in the center of Amsterdam, so I was kind of the bar pro. And then I remember they put me behind the bar, and mind you, I had like zero, right? I didn't know anything about the menu, didn't know anything about anything. Like I just knew that I was supposed to work there. And I stepped behind the bar, and then they say like, oh, and I take over somebody. It was like, hey, who's the manager? And it was like just nobody. And it was like, yeah, straight fire. It was like, there was a line of tickets right until the floor. I picked up a ticket.
Wait, on your first shift?
Yeah. And it was mayhem, and it was huge. It's like a huge. I mean, it fit about almost like 200 people, right? And people were like shouting. People were angry. Like it was serious, like nightmare stuff. And it was really kind of like do or die kind of moment. Like really, like am I gonna like. One of my colleagues that I was working with that shift, she like left. She started crying after a few hours, and she just like ran. She literally like she just left. She didn't come back, because it was like, you know, and it took me until the third day to realize and know that we actually had 4 different wines by the glass. I was just pouring the same one. It didn't matter what I didn't know. Like I was like literally, I was just trying to get the tickets out, right? So I was just going like, okay, you know, like I need to do this, and you know, just to make sure that I survived, you know, like just get it out of there somehow.
Oh my God.
You know, like
5-star service. I love it.
And I remember second or third ticket that I did, I was like, hey, you know, like here's your cappuccino. Sorry to keep you waiting. It was like, and they just said like never mind, and they just left. I was like, oof. And I mean, I just taken over, right, the bar station. It was already like completely like a war. It was a war zone. Like, and I remember I was like pouring wine in like, I don't know, like teacups, because there were like no wine glasses for some reason. Anyway, so I ended up managing the place because, well, after a few weeks of doing that, you know, like, and
oh my God.
And it was also, so they kind of sent us a brief like, oh yeah, so, you know, like as a bar pro, you know, you had to make certain cocktails. And I'd never made a cocktail in my life. And then I remember somebody ordered a mojito, big thing at the time. And I made it. And then he said, well, this is great. The only thing is it's a daiquiri. So I'm going to have to ask you to try again. I just made a daiquiri, and I was like, okay, I tasted it. It tasted good. I just didn't know anything of anything. And I just made it. And it was like, and luckily he said, you know, the gentleman said like, hey, you know, like it's a nice daiquiri though. It's just not completely not what I ordered. And I was like, oh yeah. And so you learn. Oh yeah.
Can't believe you stuck with hospitality after that. Most people would quit.
No, I loved it. It really like ties into like, I mean, it ties into also what I enjoy doing as a bar owner as well. Like it's kind of like you're like the last like line between, you know, just shutting down and survival. You know, like I think that's it really brings in kind of like your, I don't know, like a feeling of like necessity, you know, like you're really holding things together. You can just feel that in that moment you are the differentiating point between survival of this venue or just complete destruction, like the end of this place.
Catastrophe.
Yeah, and it drives you, right? It's like a super high. So it's more like, you know, I need to move, and I need to move as fast as I just can. Otherwise, this is not going to work. And so that's, I mean, it's kind of like a drug, right? So you want it again because you feel needed. Yeah. You feel like, wow, I really have a sense of purpose in this place. And, you know, up until then, I enjoyed working on it, but now it was like a whole different ballgame. Now you throw in the mix, you know, like you throw in like coffees, and then, you know, just a big venue, managing people, and then the whole cocktail and spirit side of things, which was, yeah, that was definitely like eye-opening. Now, I mean, until then I was like physically interested and felt that I was really like in the right spot. But now it was more like, oh my God, I can just, you know, like I can keep learning about this for forever, for multiple lifetimes. And I was like, yes, this is it. I was like, go. Yeah.
And then from there, you've spent a couple of years, you got quite into competitions, right?
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, so I had zero management experience or anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I had management accounting. I mean, I knew something about the number side of things. I didn't get my bachelor in yet. So, but, you know, like I hadn't managed anything until then. And so completely thrown in there. And so then, I mean, I made a new cocktail menu. Why? Because, you know, I thought, why not? You know, like I had zero guidance. You know, I think it's a recurring thing. Like there was like virtually, I had like carte blanche on all of this, like, so it was more like my GM, like had no idea about any of it, but we kept raking in the money, right? So when I started, I was putting the tickets out, right? So our revenue just kept picking up. And so I just started like doing a seasonal menu. Why? I don't know. I thought that would be nice. And then I found a whole bunch of bottles, of spirits that I didn't know. So I started tasting those. And then I just kind of bought some books. And luckily, like one of the first books was by Gary Regan. So I started kind of like from a shot point of view. It also featured, it was his cocktail shot book, but it also featured like some cocktails as well. And so that kind of piqued my interest. So I started moving into that direction too. However, after a while, I got kind of like stuck in a rut. I did that for like 3.5 years. So I was managing the team, but it was also a student hotel. So it meant that all of my staff were all hotel school students, ranging from the youngest on the floor, like were like 14, 16, 17. But they were all studying mid-level hotel school, which was weird because I had to become like a teacher by law. I had to become a kind of like a teacher of the hotel school to be able to mark them like for their real life experience, which was weird to me because I had never attended hotel school ever. I thought that was really strange, but I did it anyway. So there was like, it was only me sharing knowledge that I had gained kind of like here and there from some people around that were around me. And then, because people tried to put like managers above me in the bar, but they all kind of quit because we were just like so understaffed, and it was like extremely understaffed and then extremely, just a really difficult bar to manage because it was just so big and understaffed. And all of the students, of course, that, may or may not show up. It's student, right? You can imagine, if you have like a whole bunch of 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they don't, some of them, take it seriously. And then a lot of them, they just don't show up because they're not getting paid, right? It's their internship. So they, or get like paid nothing. So then they decide school is not for them. So then, so difficult team to manage. But I was like kind of like teaching everybody about everything, but I wasn't getting any inspiration myself after a few years. So I created a menu, and then I created another menu, create drinks because, books and tasting them, and a little bit of, at some point, Facebook, as it was starting up. And then I started competitions. And the reason was because I was like, not because I thought that I was going to win them. It was mostly because I wanted to get in contact and see other people do it and see what, like a different way of doing it. And because I felt I was kind of in a creative rut. I was kind of like repeating myself, and I was kind of getting bored from it. And that's when I started doing competitions. Like I said, so that I enjoyed doing it a lot because I was in it, in my opinion, I think for more of a right reason, because I had like zero expectations. The first few I lost like ridiculously bad. Like I got like last or like almost last. And I was fine with it, because I was seeing a lot of people doing cool stuff and cool ingredients, meeting some people for drinks, like I said, great group of people. Yeah. And so that was nice. So I just wanted more of that. I just wanted to participate in all of that because it was giving me new ideas for my menu, and maybe even new team at a later stage, also new team members or more connectivity to what other people were doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
And how did you end up going from like hotel bar, competition bartender to actually getting the keys for your first venue?
Well, kind of stumbling, I would say, because I wanted, I wanted
there seems to be a theme here.
Yeah, I wanted, I think like so many, I saw like only my own place as kind of like the pivotal, like the real end game and goal for it. Mm-hmm. I was getting very frustrated from the pushback, I would say, from hotels. I mean, basically what happened was, like I was living in a situation where, I was trying to explain to our accountant of the hotel, and I was telling him like, listen, we need martini glasses, like to make martinis. And he was like, yeah, but why do you need martini glasses? Well, I was like, we have martini on the menu. I can't sell a martini if it's in a wine glass or something. And he said, well, from your numbers, I see you haven't been selling a lot of martinis. Like, well, I don't have any martini glasses. So it's very hard to sell a martini, and it became, it became like very frustrating, the kind of like push back that I was getting. And also, I think it's just much nicer to bust your balls, like to really work a lot of hours if you know who you're doing it for. And in a hotel, hotel that I worked was just a lot of politics, people secretly dating, whatever. I was not like no plan. And I was already like at, the cap of what I wanted to do in the hotel business, right? I was the bar manager. I did some cross training in the restaurant, didn't like it. I can do it like I did. I did a lot of temp work. I can wait in a restaurant. I just don't like the restaurant setting. I don't like the restaurant world. I like the unexpectedness of a bar. I like the the way that you don't know how it's going to play out. Whereas for me in a restaurant, if you're fully booked, it's like, hey, hello, would you like some water, still or sparkling? It's kind of like the same song and dance. For me, it felt like it's kind of repetition. So I was already at like the cap of my career in the hotel already. So that was like after I'd done it for like a year. As you can understand, after a number of years of getting slightly frustrated about the fact, we were doing, at some months our revenue was higher than the revenue of the hotel rooms and higher than the restaurant, the hotel. But politically, we were like at the bottom of the food chain. Like really dang. Yeah. It was like, rooms were the most important thing. And then, of course, the executive chef, the chef was like a Michelin star chef. So very important. Bar, I remember our GM was kind of like, we have some of the investment bankers that own the chain or something. Yeah, they're coming in. So they had me just stand there and wait until they may or may not arrive, like all night long. Like my shift, the bar had already closed, and I was just waiting there until the morning because to shake his hand and make him a drink. And I was like, just to kiss his ass or something. And I was not having that. I was not having that. So I ended up leaving because it was just like very problematic. So then, that made me go to work for somebody, and it felt much better, and so I started back in the bottom, just bartending. But now I was feeling like, hey, now I'm working for somebody. If I make a lot of, if I do a great revenue, this person is going to have, will be able to have a family, get a better house, whatever. And it was also somebody who had previously shortly managed me and also was a bartender himself. So he kind of felt like, hey, we're doing it. So kind of grassroots stuff. So yeah, felt a lot better. So when he opened his second venue, it was like a speakeasy bar, and that was Door 74. So he knew I had some management experience, so he said, "Okay, you go and manage that." I had no idea what a speakeasy was at all. Like there was none in Western Europe at the time. So it was like,
what year was this? Do you remember?
2008 or something. Seven.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'd never been to a speakeasy. I had no idea. I didn't think it was going to work. I was like, okay. Is anybody going to go here? We're going to be doing like really ancient old drinks from really old books, and then people have to reserve for it. It didn't make any sense to me. But I was working there, and it was creatively, it was very interesting. I loved, I love reading old books. I love having trying old spirits. And yeah, at the same time, I was kind of saving up money to open my own bar. But like I said, then the whole convention thing happened, and I just felt that is a bigger thing to do. It's more important. Opening, a bar is nice, but having a bar show is I think is more important for the country as a whole. I felt at the time. So then I kind of put the idea of a bar in the ice box. Then I kind of continued saving money, and then I got close to it again with one of my team members that I was working with at the time. As you know, when you're opening a bar, you're dealing with on the one hand you need to get the finance sorted, then you have to get the building sorted, and then and then you as an owner have to have enough time to kind of get it all together. Those three things kind of have to align. For me, they refused to align. So it was like you would have a location, and then you're the person that was supposed to help you finance it would just disappear, or you felt that you had the money and you had the team, and then you were not able to find a venue, and so it kind of kept going kind of back and forth between that until I pretty much thought that was just it. I was just going to manage Door 74 for life. It was actually my password, so I hope there's no scammers listening or something, because a lot of time my password for everything was just like Door 74 for life. I felt like I was just kind of trapped because I couldn't move, because creatively I couldn't grow anymore. I literally had free range. You would not believe. Like I was doing the schedule, I was doing the hiring, I was doing the firing, I was doing, well, not a lot of firing. I mean, like, so I was doing the entire menu, I was doing the menu creating, I was paying the bills because, you know, like the owner I was working for was notoriously bad at keeping track of, well, anything accounting wise. So I would just pay, you know, supplier cash as they delivered it, because otherwise they wouldn't deliver it to me. So I was just kind of, I remember we were so understaffed that at one point I got somebody who is now actually, until recently, he was like the brand ambassador for Macallan. I got him to just, you know, be like our barber, just to clean, you know, the glasses, to work the dishwasher. And I paid him out of my own tips because the owner was like, didn't believe in getting an extra staff. And I believed so strongly that we could like make that much more money in tips and revenue that I just ended up paying him from my own tips. I was like, listen, okay, you don't want to get somebody else extra, I'm just going to pay him myself. And so I did. So I started like just, you know, paying people to work for me because I just, you know, because it, in my mind, it kind of paid me back in more tips. So, and that worked for a while, but, you know, obviously it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but yeah, that's what it was. That's just one of the many occasions where, you know, things just got kind of weird. But yeah, but, you know, like, but so in a way, but it was also very, you know, spoiled, maybe not the right word, but it's kind of like, you know, that if I would then, you know, go and move to another venue or manage something, that there would be many more constraints. You know, like I was used to just have like entire free reigns about the whole entity. So I knew that, you know, like if I would work somewhere else, I would not be able to buy a bottle just on a whim. Just say like, oh, this stuff sounds nice. So buy, you know, like, or organize events just by me saying yes to them, you know, like, you know. So I was aware that these kind of liberties are only reserved in normal life for a bar owner. So I knew that the only next step for me was to become a bar owner. There was just nothing else to it. And that kind of felt kind of like depressing for me, because it was more like I didn't know if it was ever going to happen. I was strongly doubting it at that time. But then, you know, like through luck and just kind of like through my former business partner, we kind of got, you know, the ball rolling and really got all of the you know, the things
you got the triangle
together. But it took, you know, like we had to, you know, like, you know, so first of all, you know, what I learned from it was like, you're going to stay, well, human beings will stay in their comfort zone until they're not, right? So I was in my comfort zone because I knew what I was doing, which was just, you know, get up and work. I was doing, you know, easily 80 hours a week. Doing well, everything in the place. But I was in my comfort. This was my life. So I get up, I would just work and go home, sleep, and then work the next day, do it again. But in order to kind of break that kind of cycle, I had to leave. And so we quit the job before we even had the place, because I felt that if you force yourself to basically, if you force yourself, you're going to have to get a place. Something has to happen. You know, either we burn through our savings, or we'll open a place. But at least we're going to be able to search full time. We can put out there that we are. It's going to go, you know, open or bust, pretty much. So something's going to happen, and something almost did go pretty wrong. Well, one of the things that I was recently talking to somebody who's also like in the works of opening his own bar, and I told him a little horror story where I got very lucky by thanks to my former business partner Tess. So we almost had a venue, and we were ready to sign, right? We were like, oh yeah, this is great. I mean, location wasn't great, but you know, rent is okay, and blah blah blah. And then it was like first red flag. So it was like, oh yeah, okay, so we're ready to sign. They were like, oh yeah, by the way, we have a license where you have to have a slot machine, right? So you know, in Holland, it kind of works that way, is that if a gambling kind of organization has a kind of like a slid in kind of like a license that there is a slot machine, you have to have the slot machine, pretty much. So you kind of inherit that from, you know, the previous business. Mm-hmm. So it meant that if we were to open, we would have to have a slot machine. And obviously, I don't love that. I'm not a gambler. I don't know. And it also, you know, it attracts a certain crowd. And we were kind of like, oh, how are we going to make that work? And we kind of wanted to make it like a speakeasy slot machine. But there's all these rules around it, like how you have to portray the slot machine. And then the slot machine people were like, oh, but you'll make a lot of money. I was like, it's really not my business model. But anyway, we were actually going to go ahead about it. But, it did raise, it's a red flag, right? Because they didn't tell us beforehand. So we were like, okay, so what else have they told us? And luckily, she asked for the VVA. So it's more like the business association, like the owners association of the building, and she asked for they have a yearly meeting, and she asked for like the notes of the meeting. So what turned out is that the whole ceiling was filled with asbestos, and so the whole thing was asbestos. And so they said, well, listen, in about a year and a half, the whole building will have to be closed for about a year and a half to renovate the entire ceiling and flooring and everything. And they failed to tell us that. So they were about to put us on a lease where in about 6 months after, right about the time when you're done constructing, where you'd have to be closed for a year and a half. In hindsight, I mean, that would have been COVID. So, it could have it could have worked out well, but no. No.
That cannot be legal, them not telling you that, surely.
I mean, we'll never know because we found out. And we said, and there were like realtors involved, right? This was not, like me shaking hands of some dodgy dude. Like we had a purchase realtor that was supposed to, protect, you from this, and they had a realtor. So we were like not summoned, but like we were asked to sit down with him, and he just kind of said, "Oh, whoopsie, sorry, forget to mention it. We'll go down with the price." And we're like, no. We're gonna backpedal on this thing right here because this relationship is gone now. So it's like it's not good. Anyway, so that was, these things happen, right? But and buildings are scarce. I mean, luckily, I think in Holland you are able to, get a lease and get an actual bar with a license. But there's many people trying to, because they know you're a first time owner, so they know, they can screw you over. And so you're a really easy target to get to swindle you out of your savings, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I remember another case was like, oh yeah, really nice location, really nice. Oh, this looks good. And I asked them the first time they showed it to us, like the selling, realtor showed it to us. I was like, hey, yeah, okay, but it used to be a restaurant. This is not gonna, like give us an issue that we're not gonna be doing any food, right? Oh no issue at all. 3 meetings later, big issue. Yeah. Cannot do anything that is not a restaurant. And I was like, wish they would have told us, they could have. Yeah, anyway. Just things like that, it was a lot of stuff like that. That will definitely, things like that can definitely get you, out of the game or deeply frustrated about that. So, and, there's so many instances where that just happens, it's sad because you just know that, like you didn't fall for it, but somebody did. And,
so I was talking to someone on the podcast last week and something very similar happened. So they signed the lease. Day one, builders go in, find asbestos, shut the whole thing down, and they lost 80 grand straight away, having to clean out the building.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it, and you shouldn't, I don't know, at the first few times you kind of go like this, you kind of go like, hey, this isn't fair, right? This isn't fair, and then you kind of learn that that's kind of life, I guess. Like it's not fair. And like this isn't fair, and if you get screwed, it just happens. It's in some cases you couldn't have done something about it. It's just this is what.
Sometimes it's just bad luck as well.
Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes it's just or you've been swindled or any other crazy stuff. Yeah, there's just so many of cases of that, but. At least, I guess at least there is a shot, like we when we opened the place, we ended up doing it without a bank loan, which is a whole different story altogether, which can really might get me rattled. or it's really a case where I kind of go like, but this makes no sense. Okay, right? So I decide to become a business owner, and then yay! So I get a call a few months later by my credit card company, and they're like, "Hey, you're a business owner now. We understand. Yes. Okay. So you're now too high of a risk. So now you don't have a credit card anymore." It's like, well, this would probably be the only time Dutch people are not typically people to loan a lot of money. I was like, well, this is probably the only time I will be needing a credit card. So it's very strange that you're gonna, kind of like, and they were like, yeah, you're too high risk. I was like, yeah, that's kind of it, isn't it? I need to borrow I probably need to borrow some money because I don't have any income because I'm setting up my own business. And it was the same with banks. It was like, hey, yeah, so we're opening a bar. Ooh, you're opening a bar. Ooh. They were like, you're sure you're not opening a restaurant? Because we do give, money to restaurants. Yeah, no, we're opening a bar. Yeah, pretty much, long story short, nobody was going to lend us money at all. Like, it didn't matter if I was the god of Sheba. Like, it doesn't matter how many awards you won. It didn't matter anything. You say bar, computer says no. It was literally like that. It did not matter to a bank. Didn't matter at all. You're a high risk kind of like segment. So no, you don't want to get into that. But listen to them after 5 years of having a successful bar, all of a sudden it's green lights everywhere. All of a sudden it was like, oh, you want to open another bar? Here's money. You want more money? Because apparently, you're in the, like I don't even know the exact numbers, but you're in a very, very, very small number of bar owners that, have survived year 3 or 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it's like green lights everywhere. It's like so weird. And it was like, you want more money? It's like, I want more money. I just paid off my loan. It's like, more money? It's like, no. Yeah. Also, this sounds very, like wrong. Trying to this isn't like a general question at all. Like everybody's trying to lend me money. I was like, I don't want more money, and I don't want to pay more rent. I don't want more money. But I'm just really worried about people that say like, oh, I'm in a bit of a pickle. Let's get more money in. 15% interest. Sure. I'll pay it back next month. It'll be fine. And really puzzles me and really kind of like annoys me in a way, where it's just the opposite of what you think is necessary. It was kind of the same, COVID hit and it was like, oh yeah, we opened our second bar, it had no track record. So we didn't have any, support from the government because, and I understood that part because, yeah. Because you're our second bar just opened, so it was like, hey, you're a new bar, so you can't show any track record of your revenue, right? So you can't really, we could be, like cheating or like trying to get as much money as we could. So the government, I understood that part, but then the bank was kind of like, oh, so we see you still have enough money to pay back your loan every month. It was like, well, how can I? We're all closed, Yeah, but we're also your bank, so we see you still have money. It's like you're still liquid. You're still liquid enough, and you're like, So you're just going to take all of my. And then the response was like, well, yeah, but at the end of the road, you'll be done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but in the meantime, I'm having sleepless nights thinking about how on earth am I gonna, where am I gonna, get money from if you're not allowed to be open. But that was of no concern to them at all. That was like, of course not. There was like no interest giving there. But they could see that we still had enough money to pay our monthly loan. No pauses, no breaks, no discounts, no nothing, just full on pay. Yeah, so yeah, that's also where you kind of learn like you're pretty much on your own. You shouldn't be expecting any. Don't expect it to make any sense. Don't expect any leniency. It's just it is what it is. If the worst happens, it's you. It's kind of like the first meeting where I had my realization, which I didn't know, which I could have known, but I didn't know. And I was having my first meeting with my insurance man, and I was like saying like, so what about pension? And he said, what pension? I was like, well, I'm not the youngest, so. How do I build up, a pension? He's like, no, that's not gonna happen. There is no pension for the likes of you. He was like, your pension is so expensive because there's like no way. You're like the highest bracket there is about you, like dying or some, becoming ill or like nobody's gonna insure you on your pension. It's like you're just gonna have to make do. Like there's no use in try. Just don't. It was like the money you'd have to pay for you to build up pension would be so high, astronomically high. There's just no. You're better off just putting it in a bank somewhere. There's a bigger chance of you like having any money left.
My
Yeah, so it's really because it's strange because in Holland, everybody's safe and everybody's like secure and everything. Everybody except the business owner. It's pretty much like once that's over your name, it's more like, yeah, you're on your own. It's like no, it's like you, sir, are on your own. You made that bet. Like it's like yeah, that was foolish of me. I didn't know what I was thinking. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was expecting. But I guess I could have known. So yeah, that was a rude awakening though. I was like, okay. So there's nothing. It's like there's nothing. Cool.
And so now you've had 3 businesses. What's the most you've had at one time? 3, right?
Yeah, three bars. Yeah. Three bars and the other events and things. Yeah.
And then you've gone relatively recently down to 1.
Yes.
What is the I guess the change? Or we don't need to go into specifics, but like, what's the reason behind that?
I guess it's very much like a marriage.
Yeah.
I'm also one time divorced. In light of all fairness, when I started the bar show, I was married at the time, and my kind of like my general rehearsal for the bar show was me and my ex-wife's wedding. It was actually the same location as our wedding. No, but we organized it, and we were both like, hey, we can do this. Like we can organize stuff, and it went really well. We're like, hey, yeah, we can do this. So she helped me a lot at that time, and she was so she helped me a lot, but on the back end stuff at the time. But kind of like a marriage, like things happen, you grow, you develop. And I think when me and my business partner, when we opened the bar, we were kind of going like, hey, to avoid, because I had witnessed firsthand, when with Door 74 was also like co-owned by Philip Duff and Sergey was my the boss that I was working for at the time. I saw them and they had like a really messy split, like really messy, like very, lawyers and everything, like very, up until like it wasn't punching, it looked like punching, there was like physical alteration, like very, very bad. So I was kind of like a child from a divorce in that way. Like both, I am also a child of a divorce, but it's like, so I witnessed firsthand how it went really bad. So when me and Tess opened our business, we were quite both adamant, like, hey, we really don't want that to happen. So luckily we kind of had like the business side of like a prenup or whatever. And so we had a lot of, we had some form of like negotiating and also kind of like in writing, like, hey, this, we both try to do our best. But when you start, you're both bartenders, right? So you kind of come from the same skill set. And then as years progress, you just find like, hey, I enjoy paying bills. That was me. Or, hey, I enjoy answering emails or doing that side of it, or organizing the events. And then for her, it was more like, hey, I enjoy doing the HR side of things. And I hated HR. I mean, I still, it's just a contract. It's just really feel, I mean, my current wife is in HR. So I love the side of, I love it. It's, it just feels very backstabby to me. Like I don't like the thing. And it's also just a lot of like weird rules. Like I like accounting, right? I like I like economy. I like number. I like the numbers game. HR is kind of like vague numbers. It's kind of vague numbers, and I like vague numbers. Anyway, so I didn't like that. So we kind of both built on our skill set, and also we kind of developed different way of managing, and also a view of what it is that bar ownership is, I guess, and a different view of what it is you're going to be doing day to day. And I guess I am relatively a hands-on person. I mean, I don't consider myself a very hands-on person. I mean, the bar is open now. I'm not there. I'm not, checking. I don't look at the cameras. I don't consider myself micromanager. But I do, even when I had 3 bars, I do like to visit quite a lot. Like I do like to be there. I do like to have have you watched like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Like, have you ever watched it? I don't know. Like,
yeah, but not in a very long time.
There's Charlie. You have Charlie, and then he in the bar he does Charlie work, and Charlie work is kind of like the worst of the worst. Like if there's dead rats, if he needs to fight rats, or if there's vomit, like I'm the guy that does like to do the Charlie work, right? So if there's somebody throwing up in the bathroom, if somebody shit himself all over the walls, who cleans it up? This guy. Yeah. So and I like doing that. I get fulfillment out of doing that. If I'm like I said, I'm like the last defense between this and destruction. And I see my role as such. Like I do the chores that nobody else is bothered to do or wants to do or think is boring or variety of reasons why, why I wouldn't let anybody else do it, because, it's ungrateful or whatever. And I think we differ in where that would lead us, because when there was 2 bars and 3 bars, I was still doing that, the door got kicked down in the toilets. Okay, I'll go over and fix it. I'm not great at fixing, by the way. I'm not great. I mean, I kind of, I'm kind of like the duct tape of fixing, but I get it kind of working. But I'm not a handyman. I really am self-taught on all of that. I'm not. Like I said, I'm a bartender from origin. I'm not great with a drill. But if I have to drill something, I'll drill something. So this is what I see, and I don't like the side of. Okay, I used to have this saying, like, office work is not real work, and which really would piss off brand ambassadors. But I don't get fulfillment, or I don't respect working on the computer a lot.
Yeah.
What I respect is manual. What I respect is the person cleaning the bar in the morning. What I respect is a dishwasher. Like these people, I respect that. And also enjoy the work. Randomly, people would find me in the latest bar that I was very big, and it had like the mechanical, restaurant-sized dishwasher, right? And I was puzzled by this machine because it's so big, I was like, and if it would get like, if the place would get into the weeds, you would just find me at the dishwasher, because I would really enjoy doing that. It's really zen for me, and I really enjoy understanding how this big dishwasher works and how it needs to be cleaned, and then explaining how we need to clean it every day. This is the stuff I like. It's boring to some. I enjoy it. Anyway, that's how I see the role of a business owner. So in that sense, I don't want to own. You can see how that is limited at some point. There's a limit to how many bars you can visit in a day or in a week. I do not desire to own, 20, 30, 40 bars. There is nothing in me that wants that at all, because it seems repetitive. It seems a lot of meetings. I have a sign. I mean, I'm not going to carry my laptop to it, but I actually have a sign in my house that says, like, nobody's ever gotten smarter from a meeting.
You can send me a photo of that.
Yeah, it's in Dutch, but it's like, I detest meetings. I detest long meetings. Like, I don't understand why anybody would enjoy that. I don't like it. I like physical stuff. I like, being in a bar, making drinks, like cleaning stuff, like output, like seeing like, hey, I did this and I did it in this speed. So it seemed as though, like now I was doing more of the Charlie work and also was doing more of the meetings, but less of the money. That I felt a little bit alone in that, and I think that's kind of where friction starts happening. So, and then so it ended up. So we split, and then and then it's kind of like it's all very much like a marriage. So you have kids, you have 3 kids, you split, who's going to stay with who. So we have a couple of, like you have 2 bars that are kind of together, and then you have 1 bar that's separate. So somebody takes the bar that's separate, and somebody takes the bars that are kind of like a twin, so they're kind of linked together. The one is the above floor of the other. So it all makes sense. And then you run the numbers, and then, like we both had, different, it was a whole big diagram of, ownerships and like holdings, so we got that part pretty right, I guess. So it was all very, there's a lot of layers and management and percentages of both our holdings having, and then so you run the numbers, and then you just do all the accounting, who, and then who owes what who, and then you have an end result, and then it meant that's how it went. So I in the divorce I got those
nice. And was this all organized in your prenup? Is there a word for it? I don't know.
No, I don't know. So at some point, no, not at all. I mean, obviously you don't, it's kind of like your business plan, right? So, I mean, we had for all of our business, we had a very good, I would say, very good business plan. One that you could actually revisit and say like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. Actually, things of course turned out differently, but there's definitely points that you go like, when you reread it, you're like, hey, that's actually not that bad. The numbers kind of pan out, and you're like, oh, yeah, makes sense. And it was kind of the same with, so you kind of sign a thing like, hey, if you, because, if somebody, falls out because of physical reasons, you have to have something in that for that, if one of us would be horribly sick or et cetera, et cetera. So it's all just to keep the businesses moving. So there was stuff like that written out, but it was definitely a 1 or 2 pager, or, it was just kind of saying hey, stab each other in the back and just offer, kind of stuff like, hey, offer the percentages first to each other before you, sell it off, or, stuff like that, so. I don't think you can kind of like know everything that's about to happen.
Of course.
But it usually it's kind of, it is good to kind of have basic stuff like that on paper somewhere that you can point out to. But yeah, because things change, and like a marriage, when you start out, like it's all, you're in love and it's all, it's all perfect. And then you think it's never going to change. But then, life, things change and
totally.
People, life.
I think it's good for people listening to hear that you can split from a business partner and make it work. Like it doesn't mean you need to sell all the businesses. It doesn't mean you need to hate each other afterwards.
No. It was all good, but it was good. It was good, and she would totally say the same. So it was good. So it's
nice.
It was good, and wishing each other all the best. So all is well, But I'm also, I'm not, that much of a vengeful person. I don't tend to, when you're racing, like when you're doing something, I try to, this is also like for me, this is the beauty of a bar as well, right? A bar as a setting, as a community, when you go out, you don't go to one bar, you go to several bars. You go to you go to the you have aperitif here, you go to another drink there, you go and have another drink there. So a bar benefits a lot from just a multitude of bars, and they're all different and they're all fun. And now you build a community, because one bar cannot stand out in the world theater. But if you have a whole scene of bars, that are all different, but they're all great in its own way, and people decide what they like the best and stuff. Now you got a scene. Now you got something that you can, be proud of and say like, hey, Amsterdam is a nice, or whatever city is a nice place to have drinks, and that's what you're trying to build for. So in that perspective, I never need to or never look at other bars like, hey, envious or like, they're horrible. They might not be my kind of place. I might definitely prefer certain places or the way that they do business over other places. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same thing, which is we're the people that care about nice drinks. So if there is any competitor that I would have, it would be the type of businesses that has zero care about what they're putting out there to people, which is, it's not even a cocktail bar. It's not, like I'm talking about really like a place that has just zero care, and so pretty much all cocktail bars are on my side of the, dividing line here, because they, at some point they decided, instead of, doing the most obvious or the easiest, they went down a more complicated route, I would say. So at some level, they care about what they're putting out to their people, to their visitors.
Cool, that's interesting. And what do you think is next for Dutch Courage?
Not a lot. I would take it nice and easy. I love it.
Yeah?
No, that was the other thing. Here
I don't picture you taking anything nice and easy, sorry.
I am an open book. So, the thing is, I don't need a lot of managing, right? So I'll find something to do. Like if there's one thing I hate, if there's one thing I don't like, in terms of like dealing with my beautiful staff, which are all stars and they're awesome. If there's one thing I kind of sometimes can grind me if I'm dealing with a staff member that's kind of like steering me, and they're saying like, Timo, you need to do this, and I was like, I'll do it. You don't need to like manage me. Like you can rest assured I will be thinking about the business and working towards which I feel is the goal. At any given time. So you don't have to kind of push me out of my comfort zone and make me do stuff. So I'll do stuff. It's just that I like to give it a lot of love before moving on to something else. So, and I feel that when we open Dutch Courage. And I'm very sure that Tess would agree. When we opened Dutch Courage, we literally got the keys 2 weeks before COVID hit. So we never really had the chance to give it the love and attention that it really deserved, because it was kind of taken from it. So we the whole first 2 years, we couldn't, promote the bar or say much about what we thought was cool about it, because everybody was closed. And during that time, because Flying Dutchman was a much bigger name and, was much more rang a bell to people, we put all of our focus online on that, because it doesn't make sense if you're saying different messages as a person in that era. So now I feel like now we're only just now in the recent years, we've been really giving it the attention it deserves to thrive. And only then, if it really is secure and happy, and the place is, is everything is just going hunky-dory, then I will start thinking about, like something that could be next, so right now I'm chilling. Sometimes, in the past, sometimes even slightly bored. So, and then I decided, so last week we decided to open in the afternoons as well.
I saw that.
We broadened our opening hours, which meant that this dinosaur bartender, which is, so Dino Bartending is actually the name of my company, my holding company, because so this dinosaur had to come out of remission. So this weekend, very typically for on Valentine's Day, why would that be? Maybe because nobody wanted to work. Why? I don't know. So anyway, on Valentine's Day, I'm actually working behind the bar in the afternoon. So. I'm until then, the past few years I've only been doing guest shifts if I'm doing something or do some stuff on for the or be at guest shifts that we are organizing. So I'll do my best. So I hope I'll do okay. But yeah, so that keeps me busy. And then another thing, now I'm just writing. Currently I'm just writing a lot. I just opened like a Substack. I used to be the kind of person. Okay, so I used to be the kind of person that would be like just about, my only thing was like oral teaching, so it was about, because I was a big believer, and I still am, that you need to put in like the 10,000 hours or so, like making drinks. That was the only way that I learned. I could read about how to make a daiquiri a million times, but I still wouldn't be better at making it. It was only until I actually made them and tasted them that I started getting better at them. So I was very much about the oral telling people, to oral training, so you have to have done this a number of years and then you get better and better and better. Recently, I guess I got old or something. Well, so now I write things down. Now there's SOPs, and I used to detest SOPs, but now I write SOPs. I read SOPs all the time. I have my onboarding is amazing. Well, if I say so myself, and I write everything down. I have like a file almost on every single, I have a one pager on almost every single bottle in our bar. Nowadays, I just point at our, our app for it. I say it's over there. It's nice. It also, it feels nicer in terms of legacy as well. It's more like, okay, if I would cease to exist or something, the bar will run. And I used to be much more thinking about, about necessity or being like irreplaceable, when I, in my, when I was managing places, I would try to even aim to be irreplaceable, really be the fastest, work the hardest, gain get the highest reviews, get the highest target revenues, and now all I'm doing is to be replaceable. So every time I do anything, so recently we had problems with the lights. What we still do, it's a bit of a pain in my, anyway. I did an electrician's course during COVID. And a plumbing course as well, but electricity, I'm not, and again, I'm not great at it. I don't have a talent for it. But every time I do something about the electricity, I just take pictures of it and I make a file out of it. Everything, every time I fix something, I put it in. So that's why now I've also started opening a Substack and just to get my writing out there, because I'm just if I taste a bottle that I find amazing, or if there's something that inspires me, now I just put it on paper, because cool. Before I didn't, before I was just hey. And nowadays I'm for instance, I'm trying to create a drink, right? At Door 74, we used to have a cocktail of the day. Every day we'd post a cocktail, and I would just create a cocktail of the day. It would take me forever, post it on Instagram, and Jake's creativity would just be flying. Nowadays, I'm more why didn't I save that? Where is the flipping? Yeah. Because I would write it down on a piece of paper from the register, and they just kind of I had a whole shoebox filled with, but they kind of all got moldy, so I can't read them anymore. So yeah, they're all gone, and I'm so sad. So now I write everything on paper. So if I create a recipe, always on paper, because you tend to think when you're younger that is limitless. You kind of go oh yeah, I'll create a drink every day. You will not. There comes a time when especially when you're less behind the bar, and then you're oh, I gotta create a drink, and then you're I'll create it on the fly. I used to create drinks on the fly, and now I'm it's not. It's just I don't know, writer's block or something.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it used to.
I got nothing. It's and then or then when I do create a drink, and it's and then I can just tell that my team is kind of going it's not. And then they're like, let us, maybe Timo, let us create the drinks. And I was like, and before we were like, no, I create the drinks. And I'm like, you create the drinks. You must be onto something here. You know, like maybe butt out. Maybe that time is you know, like my time of creating award-winning drinks. All the time is gone. Yeah, it's over. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
Can we do some quick fire questions to finish up?
Sure.
They're not usually very quick fire, to be fair. What is the highlight of your career so far?
That's tough. Yeah. I mean, I'm not one to kind of, I really don't like to look back too much, you know? I don't like to say like, oh, you know, back in the day I was, you know, like because I don't like that with other people and I don't like it with myself. So I guess, I mean, in life, I would definitely say that, you know, when my daughter was born in life, you know, like, because I really didn't think that was going to happen. Like when my wife met me, I was like probably, well, the worst. For many people, I'm like the worst workaholic they've ever seen. Like because I just really enjoy it so much. I just really love everything about bartending. It's just so wide. It's amazing. So I just really enjoy doing it. And that just kind of left very little room for friends, family, that kind of, you know, things. And I was okay with that. But then in the back of my mind, it was like, you know, like I do really want to have children. But I was, you know, similar as owning my own bar. I was kind of like, oh, yeah, that, you know, the ship has sailed and I'm getting older and whatever. And then I actually had and then my daughter was born. And I was like, whoa, you know, wow, that's, you know, left field. I didn't, you know, I was, that was that was awesome. No, that was totally awesome. And I didn't also expect, you know, I'm not the most emotional person, I would say. I was also quite surprised how, you know, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I'll see, you know, like babies. Yeah, sure. You know, kind of cute, you know, but I'm total fan guy of my daughter. So it's like,
that.
It's really kind of silly even, you know, sometimes when I feel like, oh, I'm that kind of dad that's going to go like, yeah, everything else is amazing. So that was great. And professionally, I think, you know, anytime, you know, the business just runs. I think it was a very nice question that when we started the business is that Tess also asked me, you know, I remember her asking me like, hey, when we were opening our first bar, she was like, what do you want out of this? Do you want to have like, you know, top 50 bar listings or win awards or something like that? No, the only thing I want is the bar to survive economically. And I think that's, you know, it's the best compliment for me that you can have, you know. Mm-hmm. If you make it, you know, like you're such a small, you know, and that's great. That makes me happy, you know, like if you just survive, you know, like that's cool, you know, like it's that's enough. That's enough, you know, like just And right now, sometimes I jokingly say it, you know, but I would say in the future it would be like, I always jokingly tell, you know, to my daughter is like, she always tells me like, hey, about the bar she wants me to open with her, and she always says like, yeah, she wants to open like a unicorn themed bar that also allows children.
Fuck yeah, do it.
Yeah. So I hope maybe one day she'll, you know, I when she was born, I always said like, hey, you know, like she's open to, you know, like join any, you know, industry, and if she wants to become, well, whatever she wants to do, it's all gravy. But if she does decide, you know, to go in the industry, I would be honored, you know, like to you know, like to maybe open something with her at some point, or have, you know, the bar that you know, or have Dutch Courage still be there in some shape or form when she gets of age. So I think that would be very cool. I would like that. Yeah, you know, stuff like that. You know, just kind of like you know, owning businesses that don't suck. You know, that's good. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, going to your own place and just thinking like, hey, this does not suck. You know, like it's not. You know, I would go here. Sometimes I talk to other business owners, and then they're like, you know, some business owners, they are more like, oh yeah, I created this or this bar or this concept, you know, like, and you know, it's not for me, I don't like it, you know, like, but you know, like it's on trend, it makes a lot of money. I was like, I could never do that. I'm just not. Yeah. I'm not motivated. If I don't think it's cool, my motivation is like if I don't think it's fun or cool or creative or different or exciting in a way, like why bother? You know, like you know, there would have been many other career possibilities that would have been easier or better paid than this one. So yeah.
That's for sure.
Almost everything, really, you know, like, yeah. Sorry, yeah. So that was that.
Yeah, cool. And a low light for you.
Professionally? Personally, like, ooh, that's dark. You know, I mean, I'm thinking like professionally.
This is with the non-emotional guy who's struggling.
No, yeah, it's more like from a professional standpoint, I guess. Yeah, devastating. I don't know per se. Like I'm not sure. I think a lot of times like the lowest points, you know, like they just differ, you know, and I think that's a great thing in a bar as well, is that you don't have to carry on mistakes, you know, like you do your shift, you do your utmost best, and then the next day you wake up and you go like, okay, this is what I did good, this was not good, but you know, you try and you know, you pick yourself up, you try again another day, you know, like, so, you know, like I think you know, these kind of things. And I think the low point was at some point in my career, you know, working really, really hard, you know, like when you're just making all those hours in the bar, at some point in my career, it became like normalized to kind of see, or as a whole team, and I'm talking about, you know, when I was working in the bar, it became very much normalized to like, hey, oh, you're struggling with something, you know, physically. Well, usually physically, let's take a shot of booze, you know, like, and that path was a wrong one. So I think, you know, like, I don't know how that kind of like went over there, because it didn't always was there, but somewhere, you know, that seed was planted, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, like, oh, you're dealing with ... booze, which kind of like, you know, like you have a professional relationship with booze, you know, luckily I don't drink at home and at all, but yeah, that's, you know, that's not healthy, you know, like, so, you know, that there's no need of that. And I really think that creates for sure most of the lowest points, because invariably over a number of years, there's too many to mention. That definitely creates some lower points. But so that's why I'm also quite happy with the newer generation in the way that they kind of treat alcohol. Like in my bar, we're not a, you know, quote unquote dry bar. But when I watch, well, and even with the few bars, if I watch any of the teams, you know, like, and their, you know, their consumption, if any, of any alcohol, you know, it's we've come a long way. It's definitely professionalized a lot. You know, it used to be very much more self-medicating kind of way. Yeah, so I think that was a low, and I think personal lows. Yeah, I mean, I had to deal with you know, like quite some how you say, suicides in my family or my close family, and yeah, that's not great. You know, like it pushed me in a way. But it's I think that's those things can be very sad, you know, like when people, you know, like because it's just so finite, you know, and it just kind of makes you, you know, wonder what if, you know, if you know, like, because I think when you get older, you realize that a lot of these moments or a lot of ways that you feel is very, you know, momentarily, you know, like you tend to feel that it's like it's everything and everything is gloom and doom or happy or whatever. And it's all just, you know, it all passes, you know, like it's just, you know, like it's just a moment in the wind. You'll have new highs, you have new lows, you know, like it's in the bigger scheme of things, but something like that is just very finite, you know, like there's no picking yourself up. It stops, and it's just sad in terms of potential, you know, like, and that's too bad. And I think it's sad that we have to also, as an industry, we kind of deal with things like that quite a bit because of among other things, the self-medication of the side of things. The self-medication was something that was definitely prevalent when I was younger. That was the first, I don't know, 8 years of my hospitality career. Yep. Yeah, no, like, and it's functioning sort of. But there's something to pay at the end of that. So there's
I agree with you. Now you might have already told me this story, but what's the most you've ever been in the weeds? Would it be your first day at the hotel?
No, I've got one way worse for you. This one is fun. Yeah, hold on to your seats. This one is fun. So I did some guest shifts. I hope. I'm not going to piss anybody off. It's going to be fine. I've done a lot of guest shifts, and it brought me, wonderful. It brought me all over the world, and like I said, I'm not much of a traveler or sitting into planes. I don't, does anybody really love being in a plane? But I've been to many places, and people have different expectations about guest shifts. Not everybody knows what a guest shift is. That's all fine. By the way, I'm totally pro on the guest shifts. Yay, guest shift. I'm totally pro guest shift. I'm totally pro competitions, but people just have to understand what they get out of it beforehand, and just not have unrealistic expectations, and then it's all fun. Like I said, any time that people of bartending industry meet and they make friends, it's all beautiful. So, but there was one time I got into a country, and I was we were billed as as a guest shift there, and we get there, and I'm used to there not being all of my ingredients. Sure, it's fine. And, and I'm used to like not everybody knowing that you're coming or whatever. This is all, that's all fair game. It's fine, really. But we get there and there's nothing. And I mean nothing. There's not one ingredient. There's nothing. Like there's just nothing. There's our menu, but there's pretty much it. But it gets weirder. It gets way weirder. So we're there and there's a menu. So, and then we get behind the bar. So again, there's nothing that that was supposed to be there. So like zero things, but you make it work, you combine things, you dig up things. And we get behind the bar, and it's a very new bar that just opened. I don't think it's still open. I'm pretty sure it's not. But it just opened. It's pretty big. 3 floors. And it turns out, so the first few people I ask something, and this is in a country where, they have a different writing. And so I do not, speak the language, very difficult language. And so I ask somebody that is working there, like, hey, can you explain me, like, is somebody like working with me behind the bar with us? I was with my business partner. And they're like, no, it's my first day. I don't know anything. So the first 3 or 4 people that we ask, like, hey, do you know if there's any, like anybody helping us where anything is really? All of them, it's their first day. They don't know anything. And it turns out their expectation was that, it's a bar takeover in the most literal sense of the word. Like that they expected us to take over the bar and, run it. Just run the actual bar, like do the whole thing. And, which is, so there's nobody, we're doing everything. And like everything. And that's bad because it's big. And so tickets come out, and the problem is I don't speak the lingo, right? So, and it's difficult lingo. So it's more like, so ticket comes out, it's like, what does it say? And then somebody translates it. Yeah, it's your drink, and then this drink and this drink and this drink from the menu. And it's it's another thing. So not only are they expecting us to do our drinks, they're expecting us to do all of the drinks for everybody, 3 floors, right? All of the wines, all of the everything. I have no idea what any of these letters means. I have no idea what any of the menu means. I have no idea about anything. So I just start mixing up stuff, right? So there's like a drink on there, and I just try to translate it because some of the brands translate, right? I was like, oh yeah, it's this vodka, and then this, and I was like, what is this word? It's like pomegranate. I have no idea what a pomegranate is, and I just pick something that looks like pomegranate, and I just start mixing up random stuff, like really random stuff, right? So like it has no reference to anything that these people have ordered. Again, I'm just trying to survive. There's like no other way to say it. And I still have nightmares about the next thing that's happening, right? So I'm doing all of this, and somehow they're also expecting me to put it in the system. Again, this is like a micros. I do not have a micros pass. I do not have any knowledge of the words. So basically, I just revert to saying like, oh, just give me some cash of monies that you have, because that's all I can do. I can get, and I just put the money next to the till, like, I can't get the till open, right? So I'm like, okay, this is, everything else I just give away for free because I don't know. So I'm just making drinks, and I was like, yeah, sure. And what do I owe you? I was like, I don't know this currency, so give me what give me what you think. But it gets worse. It gets worse. So then apparently there's also a cocktail week that same week, and the organizers of this cocktail week they come, and they have been sold a certain drink for the cocktail week that was created by somebody else, and they all order that drink, and obviously that menu is not there. They have to grab it somewhere, and so again I have no idea what any of it is, and I make it, and she's like, oh well, it's not the same as it is in the picture. I was like, no shit, Shirley. I was like, I don't know. And then, but the worst part of it all was when somebody, this was a time when Hendrix and Tonic was really popular. So somebody orders a Hendrix and Tonic, and they're like, yeah, they want Hendrix and Tonic with a cucumber. And I still, to this day, sometimes have nightmares about what comes next. So I'm looking. I got the Hendrix, right? I got a glass. I got ice. I can find tonic, but where is the cucumber? Where is the cucumber? I don't know. And I asked somebody, do you know where a cucumber is? Nobody, everybody's been working there for the first day. Like, I don't know. So I'm like, and I was like, I put out like a gin and tonic and I put like a lime on it. It's like, well, it is Hendrix. And I get it sent back. It's like, no, they insisted it needs to be with cucumber. It's like, where is the cucumber? It's like, we don't know. And then this person says, but you're the bartender, you should know. And I was like, I don't know. So I'm frantically looking everywhere. I'm start running throughout the building. Like I'm opening fridges. I'm like, where's the cucumber? Where's the cucumber? Where's the cucumber? And finally I get like flat on my like belly, and I look on the bottom shelf of a fridge somewhere, and I find a cucumber, and I put it on there. It's like cucumber, and it's like it's half rotten. You know when the cucumbers are like really like it's almost like I was like, don't care, it's cucumber. I start cutting it, and I toss it in, and I was like, we got it, and they're like, they've left. It took so long. And I was like, no. And so again, it took me back to the first year. It's like everybody's angry. You know, like I don't know what they're yelling. It's in this language, but they're not happy. And so my shift is up. You know, like there's nobody. It's a mess. But I'm still making drinks. Like I'm trying to make as many people happy as I can. Just putting it out there. I'm putting on my big smiley face and like, hey, what would you like? Do you speak English? And then they had to physically drag me out of the bar because we were on a we're on the tour, right? So we were supposed to meet up at some other place to do something, and they had to physically, like I remember 2 or 3 people had to drag me out of the bar because I couldn't let go, and I just couldn't let go because I was like, this bar needs me, right? I was like, this is not going to end well for this venue. Like, it's really, really not going to end well for this venue. And so I remember like clawing, like holding on to the bar because I had like more tickets and I had more drinks. And then they had to put me into the bus and they were like, how was your guest shift? And I was like, I don't think I spoke for like 45 minutes. I was just like gazing.
In shock.
Like, and when I finally spoke, it's like, and I just said like, that bar is not doing well. That's not going to end well at all. I was like, I know. I just felt really bad for for the whole for the whole thing. But I was like, there was nothing. I just kept rewinding. It was like, there was nothing I could have done. There was no coming. This was an unwinnable fight. But I still sometimes have nightmares about the cucumber thing. That damn cucumber.
You are a curious guy. You're a sucker for punishment.
Yeah.
Final question for you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you think would be really valuable for people to hear?
Well, I think maybe if we go into like the business side of things, like I know I respect your I always read your Instagram posts, and I respect you a lot for always keeping it also to the number side of things, which I think is vastly undervalued because let me first state that I will always visit a bar that is bartender, bar owner operated because I respect that, and I think that's lovely, and I think it does have the right mindset, which is to care about the product, other than just pointing at a business and say like, how much money is it making me?
Yeah.
However, there is the little thing about the business side of it. And I think if there is always one thing I want to share, it's very, very, very simple. I'm very much thinking about printing it on a shirt and wearing it or making a pin out of it. And it's very simple because, and here's the deal. As bartenders, by definition, or as bar floor people, anybody working in the industry, we are tangible like people, right? So we love, verbal, visual contact. We love actual contact. By definition, that makes us almost always very bad at emails or communication. Almost always. And what I want on my shirt, I think I should make it, is like, answer your emails. It's very simple. Yeah, it's really simple, but it's almost always forgotten. Most of my opportunities, most of avoidances, most of any issues or any successes is based on me answering emails like there's no tomorrow. So it's always about communication. If you think about it in a wider sense, I get how it's daunting. You've worked all night, you get home, and then you're tired, or if you've been drinking or whatever. And then the last thing you want to do is look at emails, but see it as an extension of talking to people. Like when somebody's talking to you, they need a reply. They need to know that they've been heard. Otherwise, they're unhappy. A lot of cases, it's just answering it. It doesn't need to be long. It just needs to say that I have seen you, like a person. Like, I have seen you. I validate what you're saying. I will get back to you this or this or that, or this is what I feel about it, or this is good, this is bad. Doesn't matter, as long as you answer it. It's really important that you answer it, because it keeps the ball rolling, and it creates a certain trust from your suppliers, from everybody. It creates a trust that you are there. You are not hiding. You are not getting back to them. That you are communicating. Vice versa. So this is key. It's key in business. It's key in life. It's key in everything. And it's going to really bite you if you ignore it. Because nowadays you can't hide, in a bar. You can't just hide and wait for it to blow over. It's not. A lot of times it's just not going to blow over. If you own a bar, it's not going to blow over. It's going to come back and it's going to bite you. So yeah, there's that, and I think that is often where things can go wrong. When I do Amsterdam Cocktail Week, I'm in communication with a lot of bars, bar owners, bartenders, and people, and that's when it can go sour. When the communication stops. Yeah. So yeah, that's and I really try to press it on my team as well. So yeah, just answer your emails. It's really
great life advice.
Make sure everything.
Yeah, that is a good note to finish on.
Makes you feel good as well. I always operate on an empty inbox. Feels amazing. It's like,
It's like it takes you such a short amount of time, but it plays on your mind so much when you don't do it.
Yeah. It's rest. That all, everything is in order. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Listen, I am, does she say Frans Slag? Like, I am quite a messy person. It doesn't, and that's fine. It's okay in this business. That's fine if you're not, like strictly. I would even argue like it might actually be better not to be like super perfectionists. I like the most stressed out people that I met. Like they're just too detail oriented. But just get it out there and then just say like, hey, and it just really, really, really helps. And it just really gives you the idea, like, listen, everything is covered, it's and then you can just focus on the other stuff. Yeah. And I also love the fact that when you say like, because it ties in, like communication also ties into what you, I think we also said about, when you're running a business, like where you don't even want to look at the revenue numbers. That's what I felt that. Yeah. So, again, it's about, like showing up, like looking at it, like communicating, that
doesn't
taking it
fucking help anybody. Putting your head in the sand. It just it just prolongs the inevitable.
Exactly. You're gonna have to face it anyway. Like I recently, somebody, I think it was like an economic forum or something. Like it's like mistakes don't age well. They go sour. You're gonna have to face it some time. You better face it now. You rip the Band-Aid off. Just get it into your face. Okay, revenue was horrible. Oh God, revenue's horrible. And it's like, oh, it sucks. Yeah, but it's there. It's not going to go away. It's not going to magically.
At least you know.
Now you know, and how bad it is. It's like So and so you see it all the time, and it's too bad, because it just, if you prolong it, it's going to get worse, and it's going to get way worse and way and just going to get too big for you to handle. Whereas if you if you go after it, you'll find that it maybe not that bad. Still not great, but maybe it turns out to be not that as bad as you thought, I guess. And another thing, maybe for me, in terms of thoughts, I like to try out many different things when it comes to events or, trying out. And most things that you try do not succeed, or they don't immediately succeed, or they succeed after a very, 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 very long time, just about the time you want to give up. So, so it's not weird. It's not you, it's just that, things take time, and, with most things, you just kind of have to, keep at it, or just kind of, when I say like, I just kind of like shotgun it, I just get a whole bunch of things, and then some things stick, hopefully, you just put out a lot of ideas, but don't fault the idea, just you put yourself out there, and then it's more like, okay, some things stick, some things not so good. But yeah, it takes time. It's extremely rare that you open up doors and there's a line outside of the door. It's not going to happen. So you're going to have to handle the fact that it's slow build. Quiet. People love to talk about successes just the same as they love to talk about, how they won at the roulette table. You never hear about the mistakes, and the mistakes are much, much more common, but you never hear about it. You only hear about the straight successes, and usually there's a reason why it's a straight success, and that's the work that's been done before it. So it's there's a lot of groundwork beneath it that they either on purpose or not on purpose don't want you to know about. So it's just everybody's grinding it. So accept that. And nothing is free. Just keep at it, and then hopefully, at the end of the day, you do something.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that is great advice. We are gonna leave it with that. Thank you so much, Timo, for joining me.
Cool, my pleasure. If there's anything, let me know. It's a great talking to you.